This cheating community is terrifying. The chipped mug warmed my hands, the lukewarm coffee doing little to soothe the knot in my stomach. Mark was late. Again. Work emergency, he texted an hour ago, a message that now felt more like a pre-written excuse than a genuine explanation. 7 years. 7 years we'd built this life, this comfortable little bubble in the suburbs, and lately, it felt like someone was slowly letting the air out. It started small. Late nights at the office, explained away by a demanding new project. Missed dinners, replaced with rushed apologies and the lingering scent of a cologne I didn't recognize. Then there was the phone. Always glued to his hand, angled away when I entered the room, silenced during meals. I tried to brush it off. Stress, I told myself. Every couple goes through rough patches. But then came the lipstick. A faint, almost invisible smudge of coral on the collar of his crisp white shirt. I'd casually pointed it out and he'd turned beet red, stammering about accidentally brushing against someone at a conference. Conference? He hadn't mentioned a conference. That night I couldn't sleep. The lipstick stain swam in my mind, a tiny, insidious blemish on the picture-perfect image of our marriage. I tossed and turned, replaying conversations, scrutinizing his every word, every gesture. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was just being insecure, but the seed of doubt had been planted and it was taking root. Emily, bless her heart, tried to be supportive. Confront him, Sarah, she'd urged over lunch. Just ask him straight up. Rip off the Band-Aid. But the thought terrified me. What if I was wrong? What if I accused him of something he didn't do? I couldn't bear the thought of damaging our relationship over a hunch. So I did what any reasonable, terrified woman would do. I became a detective. Subtle at first. A casual glance at his call log, numbers only, thankfully, a quick check of his bank statements, nothing out of the ordinary, damn it. But the more I looked, the more uneasy I felt. There were gaps in his stories, inconsistencies in his explanations. Something was definitely off. Then came the email. I was using his laptop to find a recipe for that ridiculous quinoa salad he loved, when a notification popped up in the corner of the screen. A message from Lily, the subject line simply reading, thinking of you. Curiosity, or maybe desperation, overwhelmed me. I clicked. The email was short, but the implications were devastating. A playful, flirtatious exchange, hinting at shared jokes and private moments. It was undeniable. He was having an affair. The world tilted on its axis. The room spun. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, all the air knocked out of me. How could he? After everything we'd built, after all the promises we'd made. I stumbled through the next few days and a daze, a hollow shell of my former self. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't even bring myself to look at Mark. He seemed oblivious, continuing his charade of normalcy, asking about my day, making plans for the weekend. The hypocrisy was suffocating. Driven by a desperate need to understand, to find some kind of validation for my pain, I turned to the internet. I Googled cheating spouses and stumbled upon a forum, a dark corner of the web filled with stories of betrayal, heartbreak, and rage. I created a profile under a pseudonym, Lost Sparrow, and tentatively posted my story. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of messages poured in, offering sympathy, advice, and cautionary tales. Some were supportive, urging me to leave him immediately. Others were more cynical, warning me about the depths of deception that cheating spouses were capable of. One post in particular chilled me to the bone. A woman detailing her elaborate plan for revenge, meticulously dismantling her husband's life piece by piece. It was horrifying, but also strangely compelling. Was that what I was capable of? Was that where I was headed? I found myself spending hours on the forum, reading post after post, immersing myself in the collective pain and anger. It was a strange mix of comforting and terrifying. On one hand, I felt less alone, knowing that I wasn't the only one who had experienced this kind of betrayal. On the other hand, the constant exposure to stories of infidelity amplified my anxiety and paranoia, making me question everything. I started seeing signs everywhere. A fleeting glance at his phone while he thought I wasn't looking. A mumbled excuse about a meeting that ran late. A new tie he'd bought, seemingly out of the blue. Each small detail became a piece of evidence, reinforcing my belief that he was living a double life. I even started following him. Pathetic, I know, but I needed to know the truth. One evening, I trailed him to a trendy restaurant downtown, peering through the window as he met with a woman. Not Lily, at least not according to any pictures I could find online. This one was younger, with long blonde hair and a confident smile. They laughed, they touched hands, they leaned in close. It was like watching a movie, a distorted version of my own life playing out on a screen. I described the scene to the forum community, my words dripping with bitterness and despair. The responses were mixed. Some encouraged my detective work, urging me to gather more evidence. Others warned me that I was becoming obsessed, that I needed to take a step back and focus on my own well-being. One person, a user named Truthseeker, sent me a private message. "You're spiraling, Lost Sparrow," they wrote. "This forum can be a helpful tool, but it can also be an echo chamber. You need to talk to someone in real life, someone who can offer you objective advice." That's when I decided to seek professional help. I found a therapist, Dr. Anya Sharma, who specialized in relationship issues. She was calm, compassionate, and incredibly insightful. She helped me to process my emotions, to understand the underlying dynamics of my marriage, and to develop a plan for confronting Mark. The evidence was mounting. The emails, the restaurant sighting, the inconsistencies in his stories. But I needed something concrete, something undeniable. And then I found it. A hotel receipt tucked away in his wallet. A romantic getaway package booked for 2 at a hotel an hour away. The dates corresponded to a weekend he claimed to have spent at a conference. The rage was a physical thing, a burning inferno in my chest. I wanted to scream, to break things, to make him feel the same pain that I was feeling. But Dr. Sharma had taught me to control my emotions, to channel my anger into something productive. I decided to confront him, not in a fit of rage, but with calm, collected determination. I waited for him to come home from work, poured us both a glass of wine, mine was mostly for show, and sat him down at the kitchen table. "Mark," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "We need to talk." He looked at me, his eyes wary. "What's wrong?" I took a deep breath and laid out the evidence piece by piece. The emails, the restaurant, the hotel receipt. He tried to deny it, of course. He stammered, he deflected, he even tried to blame me, accusing me of being paranoid and insecure. But I wasn't having it. I stood my ground, presenting the facts, refusing to be gaslighted. Finally, he broke. The color drained from his face and he confessed. The affair had been going on for almost a year, with Lily, his colleague. The room went silent. The only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall, each tick a hammer blow to my heart. "Why?" I finally managed to choke out. He mumbled something about feeling neglected, about needing attention, about me being too focused on my work. Excuses. Empty, pathetic excuses. I asked him to leave. He didn't argue. He packed a bag and walked out the door, leaving me alone in the wreckage of our marriage. The next few weeks were a blur. I cried, I screamed, I barely slept. Emily stayed with me, offering comfort and support. Dr. Sharma helped me to navigate the emotional minefield, to process my grief and anger, and to begin to rebuild my life. I revisited the forum, reading through my old posts. I realized how the community had both helped and hindered me. It had provided me with a sense of belonging, a space to vent my frustrations and find validation. But it had also fueled my paranoia, amplified my anxieties, and led me down a rabbit hole of negativity. I started focusing on myself. I threw myself into my work, rediscovering my passion for graphic design. I took up yoga, finding solace in the physical and mental discipline. I spent time with friends and family, reconnecting with the people who truly mattered. Slowly, gradually, I began to heal. The pain didn't disappear entirely, but it became less sharp, less all-consuming. I started to see a future for myself, a future that didn't depend on Mark. We met one last time at a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop near his office. He looked tired, defeated. He apologized again. He said he wanted to work things out, that he regretted his actions. I listened, but I didn't say much. I'd already said everything I needed to say. I handed him a letter outlining my terms. I wasn't ready to file for divorce, not yet. But I needed to see genuine change, a real commitment to rebuilding trust. I proposed couples therapy, individual therapy, and a complete cessation of contact with Lily. I also made it clear that I was no longer willing to tolerate any form of deceit or manipulation. I was done being the naive, trusting wife. I was choosing myself, my own well-being, my own happiness. He took the letter, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said. I stood up to leave. "We'll see," I said, my voice flat. As I walked away, I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if Mark would follow through, if our marriage could be salvaged. But I knew one thing for sure: I was stronger than I thought I was. I had survived the betrayal, the pain, the darkness. And I was ready to face whatever came next on my own terms. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the street. I took a deep breath, the cool air filling my lungs. The knot in my stomach was still there, but it felt a little looser, a little less constricting. I was still Lost Sparrow, but I was also something more: a survivor, a warrior, a woman who had finally found her voice. And that I realized was enough.